back to Made Up of Wires. Today I think we're going to decompile this. It's pretty neat, actually. Text communicator. It's built on LoRa, if you're familiar with radios, which is a pretty neat protocol that allows you to do pretty low bandwidth digital communication, point-to-point communication. But it also can build a mesh, a radio mesh, and I've wanted to throw little LoRa radios all over the neighborhood and see if I could create a mesh between here and my kid's school, and we could text each other. And that was a kind of a random purchase, and then it turned out way cooler than I thought it would be. I had all my kids build them. They're not very well made, though. I guess 73. Hey, does it? Good to have you back. We're gonna work on Symphony. I think we're gonna go back to Richter. I did look a little bit more at Weapon 1. There are some challenges with Weapon 1 that I didn't have time to sit down really last night and work through. And it's stuff that I don't feel real comfortable streaming, because it's really me just kind of poking, seeing if something works or if it gets me closer to what I want. And the problem really is around using one C file. We've had this issue for lots of different overlays, but using one C file to build many objects for many other files. And there's a couple things that we run into that are hard, and mostly it's that while the C file is basically the same with all the same code, there might be some macros or globals that are different, and that might cause the compilation to be different enough that we can't reuse the same compiled object. So for weapons, we looked at that a little bit yesterday. The hand ID global, for instance, was at a completely different place than it was. So it's not just like one bit that's flipped differently. It's kind of structural as well. And so if we're using the same source, which would be great to compile both of those, or say like a hand ID object that gets compiled into all the left hands, and one to get compiled into all the right hands. How does that work with the tooling that we're using? Splat doesn't really support that. Well, not in a way that I find natural. It would support it by splitting the build directories and having completely separate build directories, but I don't know if that's what we want necessarily. Anyway, there's some things to think about there. So working through those kind of research and design things is not something I like to just kind of sit and poke and get through those, so I won't do that on stream. If you're not familiar with the Castlevania Symphony of the Night project and have no idea what I'm talking about, you can go to soten.z.dev and learn more about the project. You'll find a link to GitHub, and you'll find a link to Discord where you can learn more about the project. And from GitHub, we link off to all of the other decompilation projects that we leverage to be able to do this. And there are quite a few. And I always say that I'm a contributor. This isn't my project. I just contribute to it, and I like decompiling, and I like chatting while we do it. We've been working on Richter. Yesterday we found, in addition to the weapon stuff, we found one of the cutscene adjacent functions, and I think that's probably where we'll continue. Let's just grind through this file and see if we can get most of it done. My guess is that most of these will fall pretty easily. We had one function that looked to be basically the same as a function in a couple of the other stage overlays. So the Richter boss fight takes place, and the reason I started working on Richter to begin with, it takes place in the context of the top stage. So we expect some top functions to be in here as well. Anything that has to do with that room, the main like Dracula throne room, is going to be copied into this overlay as well. I think I'm going to just go top to bottom here, and come what may, we'll figure out what's new, what's old. I do want to copy this. I'm going to open it up in another window though. So a pretty small function, something with a timer. Hey Avex, thank you for the Prime sub. Appreciate it. Let's get in. This one looks pretty simple. I think M2C is going to do most of the work here for us. Among the tools, I may be made up of wires, but I am a human. I am not made up of wires. That's the name of the show. Or maybe I am made up of wires as a quality of my person. But that is not the handle that I go by. I know it's confusing. I like the idea of a show name. I'm pseudo-anonymous streamer guy. Sulaco on Discord, and you'll see my name other places as I go through, which is why it's pseudo. So there's going to be looks like maybe a small jump table. Oh no, there are a bunch of labels in there that are curious, but I guess they're just labels that are built into the assembly. I screwed this up, so I'm gonna start over. No, I didn't screw it up. I did have the right preset. A little surprised that not more symbols were found. I do want to do a few things. Let's look at duplicates and see if that's there. What I don't like, just looking at this function, it's not a terribly complicated function. I don't think it's going to take much. But I don't like that we don't know what any of this is. And with the exception of gtimer, the only other global that we have is unknown. And it isn't a duplicate. So let's go find, I'm gonna keep that one open. Let's go find this symbol. This looks like an entity. I'm gonna guess that it's in the entity table looking at the name. Anything in that address range, 70,000, sorry, is something that is defined most likely in main, and that's common data that's used by any of the overlays in the game. I don't know why they decided to put that in main. Main doesn't do a whole lot, except for load DRA. But it does, most of the variables are defined in main. Main is auto-loaded by the PlayStation BIOS. So I'm gonna look, oh no, I want to look at the US symbols. It'll be in here. And I'm gonna delete symbols delete significant digits until I get to something close. So we want to go up until we find something in the 7.2 range, and interestingly or not, there is no named symbol in this file. That doesn't mean we don't have a named symbol here. It's just not in this file. So we're going to go to build US and look at the main map. Main is the name of the object. On your disk, it'll be SLUS underscore 0067 or something along those lines. We call it main because that's where the C main function is, and main, if you are a C programmer, you know that that is the like user entry point, the developer entry point for a program. You think it's G player? You're probably right. Oh yeah, you are right. So let's, if it is G player, I missed that G player was up there. Let's look at game.h, and G player will be here. And actually, we might be able to just find this offset. And it is the player state status. This is dangerous, and not compiler portable or platform portable if you are relying on being able to calculate or bake in offsets, because a enum does not have a defined size in C. For this version of GCC, I think that enums are always 32-bit ints, so it is okay. So that's a good thing to know. This is player state status. So we have a G player global, and this is status. And let's do this. Let's take this variable. We can't do anything about that symbol because that symbol is here. But what we can do is define it in the context. Tell M2C that this particular instance is a player state status, and it's still going to, so this, maybe this isn't helpful. This first instance is going to be the player state status, and we're going to mask off, and we could figure out what enum value we're masking. But then the negative 38, yeah, I guess that doesn't really help us. So we're just going to get rid of that. The negative 38 basically is saying GCC loaded this address in this struct, and it's just going to, instead of loading a second address in another register, it's just going to do calculations based on that position. So let's do this. We're going to replace all of the unknown 0 with G player status. And then negative 38 from there is going to be our F2, 2F2C address. Get my calculator. And subtract 38. And that gets us to EF4, which is pad sim. Yeah, only replacing the unknown 0 field. Yeah. Halcon mentioned on Twitch that there is a trigger at the entrance, and you can carefully get past that trigger. That is correct, and I've been able to do it with Form of Wolf in the past. I think in the Requiem version, but I was trying in the emulator, and I wasn't able to reproduce it. And the major difference is that that's the PlayStation version. I actually was playing the PlayStation version on hardware a little while ago, and that played so much smoother than I remembered. Okay, so look at this. This is a crazy, should I say crazy? To me, this looks like a crazy optimization. What we're saying basically is if player status is 1, we want pad sim to be 8 if it's 2. We want pad sim to be 4 if it's 4. We want pad sim to be 2. We'll go and look at what all these things are. But GCC coalesced all these into one big OR, only setting the register and then doing a single assignment here. I think this is kind of a crazy crazy construct. The other thing we have here is var v0, which is our return value. My guess is that we can do something like that. We'll see. So let's break this up. So if G timer, so we're looking at the last bit of G timer, which is the game timer, and basically every other frame we want to make this decision. And then we're going to break these up. And I do think it would be interesting to determine what each of these statuses and what the buttons are. We have tools to do that for us. So normally I wouldn't, but in this case I'm kind of interested in, it's a small enough function that it should go pretty quick. So were I to guess, this is how I think that this is going to be written. And when we get a little closer, we'll see. We can go, like I said, go put those, replace those. And that looks right. We just have the one symbol that is wrong, and that's okay. So the G timer is, like I said, it's kind of a flip-flop. Every frame, the G timer is going to get updated. And so on odd frames, we're going to do this logic. And this logic is a check for status. Let's go figure out what player state status we have. So we have 1, 2, and 4. Bat, Mist, and Wolf. And then pad sim. Want to know what those are as well. So we have 2, 4, and 8. So this is interesting. I'm gonna wager that this is, and I suck at gambling, so if I did channel points and all these other things, this is a time where I would have people bet against me. So I would wager that this is not used. And the reason I think it's not used is this may be doppelganger code. This may be Richter code that fell into here. But what we're looking at is if the player is in one of these forms, we're going to simulate R1, L1, R2 buttons. Richter, does Richter even use the R buttons for anything? I have I don't know if the Richter controls are in here. I don't think they are, actually. I keep the light off when I'm streaming because it the frequency of the light puts waves on the camera. Oh, Richter controls are in here. Yeah, there's no documented. Oh, can we not get a glare? There's no documented R1, R2, or L1. And I don't recall them doing anything either. And ultimately, these are affecting the player. So these globals go away. Okay, so what else do I want to do? I'm going to take this over. We'll see if it compiles. Halcon says, how about globals defined up in main? I found 2 other games that reversed for PlayStation. Globals are defined in a big chunk of the heap of main to give memory range to serialize on the memory card for saving. Yes, that is, that's basically how this works as well. So that does match. What I was saying is, why? Why do we put all these things in main? Let's look at... so I'm going to look at DRA. So DRA comes immediately after main in memory. And if we look at its VRAM, it's at A1000, T1000, however you'd say that, A with 4 zeros. And all of these bars that are global, none of them get up to A. Like we're right up to nearly A. And things like the SVM variables, the GPU usage, not scroll delta, I guess. Not G entities. Mixed in here are the library globals for the PlayStation SDK as well. And if the Frogger decomp, the PlayStation Frogger decomp project, they actually figured out the algorithm for determining the order that these things were compiled. And so basically the name of the file goes into a hash table, and where the symbol is, or maybe it's the name of the symbol. Let me see if I can load this up. They have a basically a whole wiki about it. Let me see if I can find it. Where is there? I had this open somewhere. Oh, maybe it's one of their scripts. So as part of their build, yeah, I think it's a Ghidra script. I will let's see if I can figure out what name it is. No, I'm pretty sure it is part of their... I think this may be the script that they use. Anyway, basically, every symbol is going to get hashed into a big hash table, and the order that those symbols get emitted from that hash table are dependent on what value they're hashed. They just go in order. And so what they did on the Frogger decomp project was they brute force the names of the variables to get them in the correct order in the hash table, which is bonkers. That's like cryptocurrency level brute forcing, and it's not quite that bad, but you have several thousand symbol names, and you have to get them all in the correct order based on some hash function. And so what they do is they permute the names. They throw a suffix after them to get them to show up in the right order, and just madness. Anyway, my point was these show up in main and not in DRA. And why? Why? So we have player. That's definitely a Symphony of the Night specific variable. If we look at what does main look like, main is very simple. So again, if you're a C programmer, we come in and do some heap initialization. So we're saying this is where dynamic memory is going to go. I don't think this is actually ever used. How much of it we want. We load DRA.bin. The BIOS, believe it or not, uses drive ladders. So they're loading things from drive C. And then waiting on DRA bin, basically. Actually, no, this is different. This is different. This is for the simulator. Never mind. They use real paths for DRA.bin. And so when this is loaded, basically it is just streamed into memory at the DRA program pointer, which is that AT1000. And then they read a header that's in that has a pointer to the function, and away it goes, this gmain game. And gmain game is a symbol that, what does this get linked in? I don't remember how that gets linked in. But really there's no game logic there, but yet all the global variables are there. All right, so let's thank you for pointing out the G player symbol, Dizzy. Let's move on to the next one. This 801961DC. Oh, I did want to do one more thing. I want to see if this function is used. And that was what I was gambling about. Is this function actually used anywhere? So we're going to look at all the things that we've decompiled so far, as well as any data or not decompiled things. It is used. It's used by this 944 function and the 5F4 function. So we kind of have a chain of these. Let's see if we can figure out if these are used. That in matching these. So we do have at least one thing that's using it here. The 994. Oh. Now I know what it's for. So we talked about this function yesterday, this 994 function. This function's going to be called when you're coming into the room during the... It's either when you're... I don't know this yet. It's either when you're coming into the room for the Richter boss fight, or during the cutscene, and they want to move you to a specific place so that things can play out in a controlled way. And what this is doing is, if you're in bat form, it's pressing the R1 button on your behalf to turn you back into Alucard, and likewise the other forms. So I was wrong. It is used. So I would have lost that bet. Everybody gets all the channel points that they bet in now in Pork. But I don't have channel points, so it was all imaginary. So let's write a little thing. If the player is transform Alucard back into Alucard form. All right. So I think the 95F4 function reference this as well. That's as good a place as any, since that's in here as well. A jump table, but otherwise a short one. Yeah, or unmorphed player, yeah. I wonder, that seems like that would exist in other cases. Oh, yeah, good call, good call. Guest 73 pointing out that if this mask here, and we actually have a macro already for that, I think. Let's go see. Player status. Transform. All right. Yeah. Thank you. That was good. Good call out. And my guess is if we go down here, so let's make this a false, and I think we're returning a bool here, which basically says, did I have to untransform the player? Again, I've mentioned this before. If you want to depend on certain sizes for types, bool isn't necessarily safe. I think at this point in like the C89 era, bool and int, no, yeah, bool and int I think were the same. So I think that this is safe. But we'd have to look at the devs didn't always care. And so it's pretty common to have an unsigned char or unsigned 8-bit value for a bool. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so all I did was change this to transform, change this to pad none, change the return values to true and false, and the return value to a bool, and all that still works. Might not work on the PSP, but it works here. So I'm okay with that. So let's go with this one. Thank you, guest 73. Appreciate it. Halcoon is talking about Another Mind, which is the game that he's working on decompiling, and how a bunch of files in order were all about the same. We call them entities. My guess is that was something similar. And so figuring out what those are called. It is interesting too, seeing some like debug prints and other things like that, where you can kind of infer variable names, and from that infer other things from that as well. My guess is that this is going to be an entity update function. I'm not sure, but that's my guess. Oh, I can't ever remember what the offsets are for things, so I'm going to assume that unknown 2C is the step. For some reason that doesn't sound right to me though, but we'll look. So we'll have a... Okay, yeah, it was the step. So I'm gonna get a new decomp for this. We have another instance where something in GPlayer is showing up. We'll have to find that too. So I'm going to put this in the context. Make it an entity pointer. And get a new fresh decomp from M2C. We'll find our 72F20. I think that might be that same Same thing. Oh no, it's VRAM flag. This is an odd name, and it's used for lots of different things. I think it may be misnamed. It possibly is named from something that was in a comment somewhere, but if you look at what this bit field represents, it doesn't really seem to go along with these things. So that's my guess, is that some print debug used the name VRAM flag, and that's how we got that value, or that field name. Yeah, so way back when somebody was decompiling Richter, this one debug print statement for this particular field was enough to convince somebody that this was the appropriate name. I don't think it's appropriate, but what are you gonna do? Possible that it was used for that in that instance. Demo timer has gone through a couple names. I think at one point it was pose timer. The second offset of entity is position XI high. And this is going to be rec.pos x high. Oh, how can you write? Bool was not NC89. Yeah, and we have an odd mashup. So our version of GCC is from 95-ish. GCC already had a ton of extensions. So a lot of the C99 stuff that became C99 is available to us. We also use a modern CPP, which allows us to use a lot of modern things as well. It actually feels, for the most part, except for the variable declaration at the top, it feels pretty good. Oh, did I ever get a... I want to get a match before... Or, sorry, not a match. I want it compiling before moving on. My guess is that I can use prim as a variable for all of these. Yeah, it looks like it. So I'm going to replace them all with prim and assume that they never conflict. Usually that's the case. One of the first steps in general, the way that most of these programs are written, or most of this code is written, is to reduce the number of variables as much as possible. M2C loves making variables where none are necessary. We haven't dealt with primitives in a while. the opposite side of this prim index, if we go down and look at the else, may be a return, a destroy and return. It's not. It's a little surprising. Often, if the primitives can't be allocated, the error handling is to destroy the object or destroy the entity. In this case, we're going to not initialize anything. And I suppose then we never step through the other steps, because if we did make it to the other steps, we would eventually go to prim buff -1. Get rid of this block 14. Step. Oh, good. Yeah, step. That's a good thing to talk about. What is a step? Entities are their behavior is codified in state machines. So the step is, where are you in that state machine? And usually there's we might think of them as just dispatch tables now, but these big switches that are used to represent that state machine. Another pad sim. So again, we're controlling the player when this event happens. See how we are. So there's a few vars that I still need to work through. Let's do this B0. So when the colors are out of order, not only in the sense of the quad colors, which is each primitive is a quad, and so the color at each corner, the PlayStation is good at grout shading between, gradient shading between those corners. Grout shading is based on the normal or the angle to the light source. And so what we're doing here is taking B3 plus 1. So I think I'm going to do B3 plus equals 1. Interesting that the R0 comes near the top. I would have expected that to be last, but basically we're going to just go backwards with these assignments. There might be a macro that we have for this. I don't really like it. It's called P gray. There was one for doing the entire set of colors. I guess not. And these are interleaved for each of the corners, so that one won't work anyway. I'm hoping that the R0 doesn't make a difference here, but we'll see. The demo timer being set, being missing is interesting. Let's go to the, well, we got rid of this variable. One more, and then we'll look at those other things. Basically, this is the same thing except a minus. And all that, yeah, it worked out. Really odd that even though R0 is the last in the assignment chain, it gets picked up much earlier. Okay. So these are both gone. So I think we've taken care of all the variables. Here we have same thing, except we're setting everything to 0. I'm going to grab that, replace that as well. No X1 getting set. Looks like potentially. Or sorry, X0, X2. Yeah, that's odd. Did I delete that? Oh, I did delete it. It was mixed in there. I missed it. I just glossed over all the zeros. All right, so now what is going on at the top? We have a bunch of code up here that is missing or seems wrong. So the first thing I noticed is the G entity 64 reference that gets put way down. Where did it go? Did I delete that too? No. G entity 64 is in case 1. Oh, I already replaced it. Break position X. So this reference isn't used until way down here, but it looks like it's being pulled out before the jump table. So I'm gonna make a variable for that. It's not common that this happens, but it does appear that this is what is happening. No, it's not. That's not quite what's happening. It's not the position. It is a entity pointer. Yes, no, not quite. So it seems like that must be used somewhere else. It's the S2 register. Here we're kind of forcing that the S2 register to be this. There's a few things that we could do to kind of make sure that that happens, but I'd rather it happen naturally. I don't see any other references though to that. So there's a few things we could do. I don't think that this is gonna work. Say it's volatile, throw it in a funny do-while 0, might force it up there. But let's just keep going and see. That didn't work either. We'll just keep going and see what happens and why. Why this gets shoved up to the top. Oh, the other thing that's happening that is interesting is I don't think we're generating a jump table. Let's go back, look at what our jump table looks at. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entries. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 entries. So there's at least one additional one that we're missing. And so I'm going to add a case 4 and force a break there. And there we go. That gives us our jump table. And it forces, look, oh, wow, look at that. So that was a significant amount of it. Let's go back and look at what is happening. So here we're generating just a bunch of conditions that say if the step is this, then jump here. If it's that, jump there. And we're not doing our logic here because of that. The code that generates the jump table, my guess is that all the code that comes before it, it kind of flushes first and says anything that happens before the jump table I want done, because I don't want to have to inject that into every location that it might end up at. Super interesting. And not necessarily what I expected. But I think that's it. G interactable, that's an EINIT. And EINIT is defined as a signed 16 array. And let's see if we can build it. Cutscene flags I have defined below, so I'm going to get rid of that other declaration. Let's build it first, and we'll do it. That worked as well. And G EINIT interactable, I think we just duplicated that one too. Oh, Disick points out maybe I don't need that Richter variable. Oh, that is a good idea. Let's see if we need it. I don't mind trying that. I haven't pulled the PSP version yet. Yeah, fortunately we do. There's no reason. So sometimes GCC will go through and it'll look at everything and say, if I can prove that there's not side effects that might affect the load, and that load is used in a bunch of these different cases, just move it up to the top, hoist it up to the top, and we'll do it there. In this case, though, there's nothing else that uses that pointer, and so I think it's needed. This is another case, though, where we're going to move the player to a certain position based on where Richter is. I mentioned the step state machine. Some entities also use a sub-step state machine as well. So you get to a particular position in your macro state machine. This is common for bosses. So bosses have like, I'm going to use the cross item smash. And within the cross item smash, it has its own state machine that maybe the player is tracking. All right, so I think that's it. There's some other cleanup and changes there, but I'm not gonna do those now. So 2 more left. No, 3 more left. Two if you exclude the one that is in a bunch of other things. Let's look at 9208. Another one about the same size. Same idea here. So when you're dealing with RO data, it may need to be padded along certain boundaries, and that's what looks like is the case here. This table is only 5 entries long. If we would use this as a address for jumping, terrible things would happen. This looks very similar. I'm guessing it's going to play out basically the same way. Couldn't figure out, M2C didn't figure out the signatures. Let's help it. It would be interesting, I think, to look at Ghidra. I look at Ghidra every once in a while, and I know that Cristiano, who shows up in chat, he uses Ghidra for a project that he's working on. He's working on like a work-alike. He doesn't care about getting a completely matching decomp. So for his use case, Ghidra seems to work pretty well. It would be interesting to get this dev loop in Ghidra. I do like, in general, what this loop looks like, but possibly having a bunch of these tools integrated even further. Oh, I'm doing bad things. Oh no, I'm not doing bad things. So we're at 92% already. What I was gonna do, I thought it wasn't compiling yet, but it is. So we can do these replacements. Another thing that I didn't do, I mean, all this is basically the same. And I probably should have, I didn't really think about it. I didn't run the other one through the PSP version of the game. And that might come back to haunt me, we'll see. Yeah, doing Diablo would be awesome. So for Diablo, they did release, and I haven't played it, they did release a remaster of Diablo 2, right? Oh, and there's a Ghidra server. I didn't know that either. There's a few tools. Did they change the gameplay at all in Diablo 2? I would have liked to go back and play it. Diablo 2 is the first one where your character was stored in BattleNet too, right? Friend that introduced me to the first Diablo, for whatever reason, seemed to have no interest in Diablo 2. And we played a lot, me and my roommate and friend and neighbor in college. We all played a lot of Diablo 2 together. Or sorry, Diablo together. I really enjoyed that. And I like Diablo 2 quite a bit, except for the stupid the swamp thing where the little flea men were coming after you. That was the worst. I had my ATI Rage card, and I could totally turn on the parallax without any slowdown. Yeah, it was the worst. It was the worst. Not play tested. I love Blizzard. Probably my favorite game company of all time. It's pretty close. Blizzard. I have Diablo 4. Never played it. I was really late to Diablo 3, which I thought was pretty good. When I eventually did play it. But before they were bought by Activision, definitely, they could do no wrong. Except for completely delay their games, which they had a habit of over-promising, but when the game finally came out, it was always excellent. All right, so there's a small issue with ordering here. Step is usually one of the last things, so I am going to move that down. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Did I get rid of... Oh, I think I got rid of a break here. So we need an entity extension. I think we have one already that has a timer associated with it. Or that is just a timer. And I think that's all that's necessary. What is temp A2? This is our timer. So that's what's happening here. So if we're greater than 8, we're gonna increment the step, set the draw mode. I don't have the draw modes memorized, so I don't know what they are offhand. It's possible that these are signed. Doesn't look like it. So I'm gonna go try to find a timer. pretty common that we have things like this where the timer is the first field in the entity extension. Should probably actually go through all of the code. Prim is common to have as the first field as well. Here's one, but I don't want to reuse that one. Do you just have timer? Yes, timer only. Unfortunately, our timer seems like it might be unsigned. Let's try to make a new one. We'll make an unsigned timer. Oh, somebody was smarter than me. They came up with this first. Good job, you timer only. I was right below. Cheapers. It was right below where I was working. Good job, folks. So smart. So smart. There's so much of this, and I keep meaning to do this as well. There's so much you could do in a project like this. But having like a dolphin style like status report of everything, because things do change quite a bit. So it looks like I was wrong about where the increment is for the step. A little surprised about that. That looks like it was the last thing to go. This is another case where I almost should pull in the PSP version just because it will work through some of those ordering issues. We have a variable here I need to deal with first before we can move on. So this is another thing that's deep in no, but it's defined as a global already. Okay, so this is, I was worried that this was being defined in, or the declaration was automatic, but it's something defined in main. Cutscene and interactive. I missed Helkman's comment earlier about having to parse KNR or rewrite KNR definitions. That is not fun. Yeah, I feel like I came to learn C at just the right time, because C99 is pretty good. It has most of the ergonomic things that you'd want. I mean, C is better, but it hasn't changed much. I think they got rid of most of it. C89 actually is not that bad either. It's just the forward declarations of locals that I hate. That's the biggest thing. Having line comments is nice. Return with a break. Yes, definitely. I would love to replace a return with a break. Thank you. I will. A new version of this in there. And so we have a bunch of, so I don't, unless I am trying to understand the meaning in decomp.me, I typically don't go and replace flags or other things like that anymore. And I've mentioned this before. I'm going to add these since they're building. We have pretty nice tools. So this FF is for fast format. It's going to go through and it's going to tell me, first of all the things that it replaced for me. So the draw modes are going to get replaced with their enums. And this is one that I wrote a couple months ago. It will look for automatic symbol names, and if the address embedded in that symbol name falls into G entities, it will yell at you. And the reason I wrote this was because I was trying to get Doppelganger to compile in portable builds. And so if you use these random symbols that are actually supposed to be in the entities table, even if you get it to build for not like the PlayStation, like say, choose your target, those references should be in that entity table somewhere. And either you're going to run into situations where you're indexing as like an array into something that you don't necessarily know the size of because it's platform dependent, or something else. And so I wrote this linter. This was our first fail only linter. Most of our linters in the past did things like this, where they would find fields with hard-coded numbers and turn them into the appropriate enums. Oh, yep, I need to read this back. And so this will, oh, it doesn't do pad sim? That's the reason it doesn't do pad sim, yes, I did consider that too, actually. The reason it doesn't do pad sim is because our linting tool only looks at the current line, and each of the linters is given a line and nothing else. It doesn't have context to when the file changes or anything like that. So is it within the context of a file? It might just be run once per file, actually. Anyway, the linters are just given a line, and so they don't know the meaning of our macros, so they don't know the version of the game and whether or not that code is related to the version of the game that you're currently decompiling. And the pad buttons are different for each version of the game. Oh, Dizek is saying this turns, yeah. Yeah, so look at where Richter is compared to the player. Yeah, it's really fun to, like, as you get symbols and determine meaning. Demo timer, kind of related to all that, what it does is pause the sprite for however many frames you tell it. So in this case it'll be 1. I'm not sure what the... So we're fading something up to white. It'll be over the course of several seconds. I really should go back and play that fight. All right, one more. What time is it? Hopefully there's time for this one. A9084. A little shorter. I'm not going to do the other one because it is a dupe. All right, so M2C did figure out that this was an entity as the argument. I really should just put these common init structs into, or arrays into my context. We have another case where this it may be player, it may be part of entity, I can never remember. Let's look at that. Not found. Not found. So we were 351. Yeah, so it is part of player. No, it's not. It's part of G entities 1. Weird. I'm not sure what the first entity is, or like I guess it's the second entity. The one at index 1. So taking the symbol's address, subtracting offset 1's base address, that gets us to 7C. Not a good place to be. 7C is the start of the entity extension. So this is G entities subscript 1 dot ext something. Let's go look for other cases where G entities 1 dot ext is being used. Okay, and so it has an unknown 0. This is not something I've come across previously. Yeah, that is a good point, Physic. And it should work that way. So let's try it. Because I agree. I'm just going to remake everything. Oops. So I've added the sizes to all these. Let's see how this changes. Because you are right. That is the way it's supposed to work. So what I want to see here is G entities underscore 1 plus 7C. Yeah. So I'm changing the root symbol table for the game, so everything has to be recompiled because everything is going to depend on that. So while that's going, let's keep working on this. When M2C says that this is an irregular switch, it means that there is no jump table associated with it. So build finish, it does not tell me that this file changed, and it did not generate those offsets. So is there something in Splat that I'm missing? this. Like, is it possible that that's an option? Oh, am I... Oh, I didn't... Is that what it is? Yes, this is what it is, because there are other rules that basically say you can only have one equal sign. So let's try it again. That's going to go, and we will continue on. And that looks like that was the key. I have been writing this wrong for weeks, if not months. Always putting size equals when it should have been size colon. And what does our assembly look like? Yes. Oh, very nice. Thank you. I wouldn't have thought of doing it. All right. So we have something similar up here where the player position and the tile map offset are being loaded at the beginning of the switch, like that other instance, and I do think those are going to be variables. I do like breaks instead of returns. I can get away with it. And it doesn't seem like anything is preventing that here. So we're going to put 2 vars. I make them both sign 16, but we'll see if we have to here. I don't know why. Oh, we might be doing this addition here. Maybe? We might be doing the addition. Yeah, I think the addition is being done here. So this is so I think I've called this global X in the past. So this is you have all the tiles for your map, and so you're scrolled to a specific viewport in that whole map, and then where is the player within that viewport? The player position is the position in the viewport, not the position in the map. So, like, yeah, we'll call it player global X, and I think it's being calculated at the top. And if this doesn't work, I probably just will go get the PSP version. But that did work, yeah. I think that's it for this one. So this again looks like if the player is in a particular place, we're gonna move that player to where we want them to be. And this is one of the few cases where I can do the assignment right away. So this is the way that this is shaping up. I will just do this last one since it's there. And get that file done. So it's going to turn out that this whole file ends up not being PSP safe, where the rest of it is. I don't, unless it's something that I feel like is important for other people to know, I don't mark these as PSP or otherwise. So I am going to assume that this is written like this. And oops. This was a duplicate. So let's look at, chose poorly. Let's look at one of the other versions of this. Sen is the first one. So this is, yeah, I mean, reordering these statements, basically the reference to the height field, putting that in each of the conditional blocks, worked out to be the same. Sen is PSP. I can't remember if Sen has been started on PSP. Let's look at DAI. They call this cutscene init, which is probably a good name for this file. I like it. What I'm trying to figure out, oh, it's coming from another place, unknown graphic struct instead of tile map. And I think that the DRE version is unknown graphic struct too. So it's interesting that tile map is used for some and unknown graphic struct is used for others. What I think I'm going to do though, and I like, is rename this file to cutscene init. I think that's a reasonable name. I just have to find my tab. Gone forever. So might as well just open a new window and start another collection of tabs that I'll never be able to find. There we go. Safari used to have a tool called Activity Window. And Activity Window basically gave you a searchable, was it searchable? No, it was sortable. It gave you a table of all your tabs that were open, and you could sort it. And so one of my side projects was a utility called Activity Window, and I probably should try to finish it. Browsers are so locked down now, so you have to write extensions and write them in JavaScript and all this other stuff, which is fine. So I have a couple versions of it, but it's not finished. I always have so many tabs open that having a tool like that is nice for finding them, so I don't constantly have 37 of the same thing open. Okay, so something I did failed. Okay, let's see if we have RO data associated with it. That's what failed. Oh, all these got sorted when I ran the format. And there we go. If you rewind function of those before the same situation happened with gplayer, it's worth fixing as well. Yes, possibly. Yeah, and so there's Dizik is saying that a bunch of the now that the size comment is in place, there probably is a bunch of things that will be more obvious that they're related to one thing or another. Are you talking about one of the if you rewind function or two before the same situation happened with gplayer, it's worth fixing as well? Oh, is there another DUS? Are you referring to something we did earlier today? Oh, are you talking about in the symbol table? Earlier today. So we went through each of these. There was another one of the globals that were missed. Let's see which ones we had. I think we have all of the globals taken. I do think yeah, looking at oh, is this it? In gplayer, the player one is a little harder, and so we have gplayer. So we do have a size here, but because we have right now we only have one field in there. We could just get rid of that. I don't know that demo timer is doing us a whole lot of good, and all of these addresses are in the header file anyway, so it's probably worth doing. In the, is that what you're referring to? Oh, hey, Blue Harvey. Good day. Decomping is going well today. No issues. No issues. Yeah, yeah. When you get the overlaps, and I've mentioned that before. Adding a segment tree or something like that to SPIM so that it could find specific symbols that you have, but understand that those are within the context of a larger array or struct would be really nice, but SPIM doesn't support that. Yeah, okay. So what are we doing? We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony Night. Appreciate everybody for stopping by again. I'm gonna sign off. Go to soten.z.dev to learn more, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow might be a little late, but I was today too. Adios.